My cousin from Arizona went backpacking in Southeast Asia. He called me from Thailand, completely bewildered. "This is so disorganized," he said. "I was just in Vietnam and they use dong. Here they use baht. I'm going to Cambodia next. And they use real... Why can't this whole continent just agree on one currency?" It's like if every state in the US had its own dollar. It's just a way to rip off tourists with exchange fees. It's a total racket. He was convinced it was a coordinated conspiracy against him. An American tourist was arguing with a border agent while trying to cross from Croatia into Bosnia. He was furious that he had to show his passport again. He yelled, "I already showed it when I landed in Europe in Rome. I have a European stamp." Why do you guys have all these pointless toll booths in the middle of your country? The agent, with the patience of a saint, tried to explain they were two different countries. The American shot back, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're all part of the former Yugoslavia, which is basically a county in Europe." I was on a tour of the Galapagos Islands. An American woman on the boat was very disappointed. She asked the guide, "So we're in South America?" "Right." The guide confirmed they were in Ecuador. She then said, "Well, where are the penguins and the llamas and the big Jesus statue? I thought we'd see all the famous South American things. It feels like we're only seeing the stuff from this one county. I paid for the whole continental experience." She thought South America was a single theme park and we were stuck in the Ecuador section. An American executive visiting our office in Mumbai was confused by our public holidays. He saw we had holidays for Diwali, Eid, and Christmas. He pulled me aside and said, "I don't get it. Which one is the main holiday for the continent of Asia? You can't have 3 Christmases. In the US, we have one and everyone gets on board. It's more efficient. You guys should vote on the best one and make it the official holiday for the whole continent. It would be much better for international business scheduling." I witnessed an American trying to rent a car in Spain to drive to Morocco. The rental agent told him he couldn't take the car to another continent. The American laughed and said, "Another continent? Buddy, look at the map. It's right there. It's a shorter drive than from my house to my mother-in-law's. Africa isn't a continent. It's just the southern part of Europe, like how Mexico is the southern part of North America. Just give me the keys." He genuinely believed the Strait of Gibraltar was like a river, not a continental divide. A young American couple was at a cafe in Vienna, Austria. I heard the woman say to her partner, "Okay, so after we finish our coffee, we can quickly walk over and see the kangaroos before heading to the opera." Her boyfriend pulled up a map on his phone, looked confused for a minute, and then said, "Honey, I think the kangaroos are in the other capital. We're in Vienna, the capital of Europe. The kangaroos are in Sydney, the capital of the continent of Australia." They were both wrong on so many levels. My American professor for a world history class was explaining the fall of the Roman Empire. He said, and this was a huge deal because it was the first time the continent of Europe didn't have a État, single government. It splintered into all the little countries you see today. It's basically what would happen if Washington, D.C. fell and every state became its own country. A total mess. He taught the entire semester from the perspective that a unified continent was the default state of being. I was on a train from Belgium to the Netherlands. An American across the aisle was on the phone complaining loudly, "Yeah, I'm on a train to Amsterdam. It's in the northern county of Europe." It's weird. The signs just changed from French to some other language. I thought the official language of the European continent was English, or at least French. Why does every county have its own language? It's like if people in Ohio suddenly started speaking German. It's just not practical for anyone. An American tourist in Jordan was looking out over the Dead Sea towards Israel. He asked the tour guide, "So that's another country over there, but we're all in the Middle East, right? Why are there borders? It seems like a lot of hassle. You guys should just merge into one big country called the Middle East. You could have a cool flag with a camel on it. It would probably solve a lot of your problems, you know." He offered this geopolitical advice with the casual air of someone suggesting a new restaurant. My friend is a flight attendant. She had an American passenger on a flight to Singapore who became I-8 when he learned his connecting flight to Bali was with a different airline, and from another terminal. He demanded, "Why isn't this all one airport, Singapore, Indonesia? It's all part of the same continent of Asia. This should be a domestic transfer. In America, I can fly from New York to LA with a connection in Chicago, and I don't have to go through security again. Your continent is run very poorly." I was working in a hostel in Peru, and an American guest came to the desk asking for a map of the continent. I gave him a map of South America. He stared at it for a while and then asked, "Okay, so where are the pyramids? The big pointy ones?" I explained. "Those are in Egypt, in Africa." He looked at me with genuine disbelief and said, "Are you sure I thought all the ancient stuff was on one continent, and all the modern stuff was on another? It seems really disorganized to have pyramids on two different continents." An American was trying to get a SIM card in Helsinki, Finland. He told the Clear, "I need the Pan-European plan, the one that works in all the states." The Clear explained. They had a plan that worked in the EU. The American got frustrated. "No, not just the EU. I'm also going to Switzerland and Norway. I need the card that works for the whole continent. Why do you guys make it so complicated with your little clubs?" In America, "My Verizon plan works in all 50 states. It's easy. You should learn from us." At a climate change conference, a junior delegate from the US was presenting. He kept referring to Africa as a single entity. He said things like, "Africa needs to lower its carbon emissions, and what is Africa's plan for renewable energy?" During the Q&A, a delegate from Kenya asked him to clarify which of the 54 diverse nations he was referring to. The American looked flustered and replied, "You know, all of them. The country of Africa. We need a commitment from your leadership." I met an American in a bar in Tokyo who told me he was on a mission to try a beer from every country in Asia. I was impressed and asked where he'd been. He said, "Well, I'm here in Japan, which is the capital, so I figure this is the best place to sample all of them. I just need to find the Asia section at the liquor store." He thought Tokyo was the capital of the continent, and that he could find beers from India, Thailand, and Kazakhstan at a local 7-Eleven. An American tourist was at the Rock of Gibraltar looking across the water at Morocco. He said to his son, "See, Jimmy, that's Africa over there. It's the world's biggest desert. It's so cool that we can see it from here in Spain." He seemed to think the entire continent of Africa, from the Mediterranean coast to the jungles of the Congo, to the plains of the Serengeti, was just one giant uniform sandbox that started immediately on the other side of the water. My company sent an IT guy from Texas to our office in Frankfurt to unify our European network. He arrived and announced his plan was to assign a single IP address range for the entire continent. When our German network engineer tried to explain that data privacy laws are different in every country and this was impossible, the Texan replied, "Son, they're just states. We have different laws in Texas and California, but we all use the same internet. Let's not overcomplicate things." An American was in a bookstore in London looking for a travel guide. He asked the employee, "Where are your books on the continent of Great Britain?" The employee politely directed him to the UK section. The American shook his head. "No, not just the UK. I want to see all of it. England, Ireland, Scotland, the whole continent. I need a guide that covers all the countries on this island." He had somehow conflated the British Isles into a continent and then mixed up which countries were on which island. I was on a cruise that docked in several Caribbean islands. An American passenger was complaining at the guest services desk. "I don't understand why I have to keep track of all these different currencies. We were just in the Bahamas and now we're in Jamaica. Aren't these all just counties in the same tropical state? It feels like they're intentionally making it difficult for us tourists. The whole continent of the Caribbean should just adopt the US dollar." An American exchange student in my politics class in France argued that Africa couldn't be a continent because it didn't have a continental government like North America does. When asked what he meant, he explained, "Well, we have the US, Canada, and Mexico. And we all work together under NAFTA. We have a system. Africa is just a bunch of random countries. It's more like a geographical suggestion than a real unified continent. It doesn't count until it gets organized. I overheard a tourist in Iceland talking about the Northern Lights. He said, "It's amazing that we can see this from a European country. I always thought you had to go to a whole different continent like the Arctic to see this." He was then completely floored to learn that the Arctic is a region that includes parts of several continents, including Europe, and not a separate landmass at the top of the globe. An American was trying to plan a trip with a travel agent in Chicago. He said, "I want to do the 3 A's, a week in Asia, a week in Africa, and a week in Australia." The agent started asking for specifics and he got annoyed. "I don't know. Man, just book me a flight to the main city in each continent and I'll figure it out from there. Just get me to the capital of Asia, the capital of Africa, and the capital of Australia. It's a simple request." My friend was guiding an American family on a hike in the Andes in Peru. The mother asked, "So, are these mountains part of the Rocky Mountains?" The guide explained that these were the Andes. The woman insisted, "But they're on the same side of the world. The Americas are one big continent just with a north and south part. So these have to be the South Rockies. Right? It's just one big mountain chain that runs through the whole country of America." An American was at a food festival in Toronto, Canada. He tried poutine for the first time and loved it. He went up to the vendor and said, "This is amazing. Which U.S. state is this from? I've never had it before." The vendor proudly said, "It's from Quebec, Canada." But the American looked confused and replied, "Oh, I get it. So it's like a Canadian-themed dish from a state near the border, like Minnesota or something. Cool concept." He could not be convinced it was actually from another country. I was in a history museum in Istanbul, a city famously spanning 2 continents. An American tourist was looking at a map showing the divide. He turned to his wife and said, "This is so weird. Why would they build a city in 2 different states? The commute must be a nightmare. They should have just picked one side of the river. It's just bad urban planning. No wonder their empire fell." He interpreted the Bosphorus Strait as a state line. An American on a safari in Kenya was asking the guide about the animals. "So we've seen lions and elephants. Are we going to see tigers and kangaroos later today?" The guide explained that tigers are from Asia and kangaroos are from Australia. The tourist got genuinely upset. "But this is the Africa part of the zoo. You're supposed to have all the famous animals here. This feels like false advertising. I paid for the full continental safari experience." My boss from New York was reviewing a proposal for a new office in South America. The proposal was for Bogotá, Colombia. He rejected it, saying, "This is too risky. The whole continent is just jungle and drug lords. We should put the office in a safer part of the country like Mexico City." Someone had to pull him aside with a map and explain that Mexico City is in North America and that his perception of an entire continent was based on a Netflix show. An American was at a train station in Brussels looking at the departure board which listed destinations like Paris, Amsterdam, and Cologne. He shook his head and muttered to his friend, "This is so inefficient. Why do they need international trains? In the U.S., we just have one company, Amtrak, that goes to all the major cities in the country. Europe should just have Eurotrack that goes everywhere on the continent. All these different companies and countries are just confusing." I was at a New Year's Eve party in Sydney, Australia. An American tourist was thrilled to be one of the first to celebrate. He said, "This is awesome. We're in the future. I can't wait to call my friends back in England and tell them what 2024 is like." Someone gently pointed out that Sydney is about 11 hours ahead of London. He was shocked. But they're both on the same continent of, the one with the Queen. They should be in the same time zone. An American was trying to explain his family heritage. He said, "My mom's side is from the continent of Italy, and my dad's side is from the continent of Ireland." We were all too stunned to correct him. He continued, "It was hard for them to blend their continental cultures with but they made it work. We eat a lot of potato pasta. He genuinely believed each European country was its own continent, with a unique, monolithic culture. A tourist from California was in Antarctica and was disappointed by the lack of infrastructure. He asked the expedition leader, "So there are no roads or hotels on this entire continent? Not even a Starbucks? It feels like a huge missed opportunity. You could build a massive ski resort here. Which country do we need to petition to get that started? I'm sure an American company would. Love to develop this state." I was working at a call center and a man from Florida called in furious about roaming charges. He said, "I was on a cruise and my phone worked fine in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. But the second we got to Barbados, I got hit with huge fees. It's all the same continent of islands, right? This is a scam. It's like charging me roaming to go from Florida to the Florida Keys." I had to explain the concept of sovereign nations to a grown man. An American was in a pub in Scotland enjoying a whiskey tasting. He told the bartender, "This is great stuff, I'm a huge fan of European liquor. I love Scottish whiskey, Irish whiskey, and my absolute favorite is Jack Daniels." The Scottish bartender's eyes started twitching as he slowly explained that Tennessee is not in fact a country on the continent of Europe.